Hey, what's up guys, Aaron over here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 40 today for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in Season 2. This is the finale of Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous episode uploaded a couple of days ago at this running Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because that obviously sets up this titanic season finale that we have in store at Yas Marina between Sebastian Vettel, Sergio Perez, and we have come in very, very late into the party, but ourselves as well. We have already sealed out the Constructors' Championship last episode. There is our trophy on the right. We've done it in the second season only, which I find unbelievable, and it's a very weird set of circumstances, really. You know, I think Sergio Perez as a teammate, his AI being so unbelievably strong this entire season has helped that out. I think if he was a bit weaker, I don't think we would have been in the fight, really. And it's been a very unique season with Aston Martin starting off so strong with McLaren and Mercedes. Then they kind of continued. McLaren and Mercedes fell off. Then halfway through the season, of course, we had that performance patch for the cars, and Aston Martin actually dropped down in performance. And yet, despite that, Sebastian Vettel's specific AI has been able to pull out just enough performances here and there to keep a championship fight level and to keep the lead for a fair few episodes now. And it's been up to myself and Perez to grind away at that lead ever since the Japanese Grand Prix, just chipping away small here and there, myself and Sergio, and now we are here. Sergio Perez is 4 points behind Sebastian Vettel. I'm a further 4 behind him, and it all comes down to one final race. And it's even juicier because, of course, if you've been following along with the R&D chart, you know, Aston Martin and our team, we're not even the best teams on the grid anymore, so we're not even fighting for the top, you know, podium spots, the race wins. So it means things are going to come down to the tiniest of margins and very small points overhaul. So I don't know, there's going to be a lot of maths on the fly, I think, in this episode to figure out midway through the race where everyone stands. But we'll get to that. We'll get to the race. There's still some stuff to go through at the beginning of this episode, because we can actually talk about some R&D potentially before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We can reallocate some R&D here with this, well, there's reallocation opportunity that was an HQ event, and we've got over 6,000 points now to play around with, and there's actually a lot of time in between Australia and Abu Dhabi in the in-game activity timeline. So we've gone ahead and purchased 2 minor upgrades on the front and rear downforce. Now, 2 minors, you know, it's nothing crazy, but it's still something just to help the team a little bit. You can see in terms of aero, though, our aero is actually still in the top 3 of the grid. We've kind of lost out a little bit more on the chassis, I think, and the engine side of things. Whereas I think it was clear there that Aston Martin, they got hit the heaviest in the performance patch on the aero side. So they lost a lot of, you know, downforce potentially, or the car got a lot draggier, I guess, because I don't think we've seen them as punchy as they maybe were. Obviously, when Vettel was out there getting all those pole positions at the start of this season. And yeah, speaking of the R&D chart, this is what it ends up looking like. We've got Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari right at the sharp end. So as I've said many times, you know, it's very ominous how good Ferrari, especially in McLaren, have looked, and I suspect those two teams, along with Mercedes, if they pull their socks up, will be, you know, at the forefront of Season 3 going into that one after this episode. But obviously we still have some unfinished business to do here, but you can see where we lie. We're in the middle of Red Bull and Alpine, actually, the team we're fighting in Season 1, and Aston Martin technically are actually lower than Williams right now on the R&D chart, and yet, despite that, Sebastian Vettel's AI has been doing enough just to maintain his championship lead, which kind of puts into context how impressive Vettel's AI has been this season. And if you have been following along, you will know that this is in fact actually his final race and season in our game. He is retiring at the end of this season. So will Sebastian Vettel bow out of Formula 1 as a 5-time world champion, or will he bow out knowing he's put up one of the greatest fights of his life, really, in his career, against a very strong Sergio Perez and a late bloomer in the form of ourselves? Because, you know, it's taken us a while, I think, to heat up to this car, to get to grips with it, to go toe-to-toe a bit in the races, a bit more with the likes of Perez and the teams around us. But that win at Mexico and the overtaking we did at Brazil, I feel, really announced ourselves on the stage for a late, you know, hand in the ring, basically, for this championship fight. But, you know, it is going to be difficult. The fact we're not fighting for podiums and wins, you know, not guaranteed. Obviously, you never know what happens in the race. You know, crazy things have happened. Obviously, Mexico was not too far ago. But, you know, if we're not fighting for those top positions, it will be hard hard to bring down a 7-point deficit to Vettel. Even for Perez, it will be difficult to maybe close down a 4-point gap depending on where Vettel is, where he is. So it's going to be tight, I think. It's going to be tight, but that's going to make it a very, very fun episode and race to come. And really, actually, if you think about it, in terms of the pecking order, we're kind of previewing what we might get at the start of Season 3 here in Q1. You know, the McLarens right at the top, Ferrari, Mercedes looking strong, Alpine and Red Bull kind of in the middle there where Perez is, and Aston Martin on the back foot, P10 and P11. Obviously for us, we're not usually that quick in Q1. Now this is where the business begins in Q2, trying to get into the top 10 shootout, which has been actually a bit of a challenge for myself. Even Perez at times, he's had to go and do a second run, and you know, the two Aston Martins, I think they've failed to make the top 10 shootout now for I think 3-4 times in a row. Such is the deficit they've kind of had now on the R&D chart, and we come across the line, and that first run just really wasn't that great, I felt. It looks okay right now, P6, but as we go on through this session, other people will go quicker. That last corner for us was just so bad. I had so much understeer in that I think we could probably gain about 2/10 alone in the last corner. And actually, a lot of people in front of me set their times on medium tyres, including Alonso, Leclerc, Perez. So they're going to go again probably on a set of soft tyres. So even though it looks okay right now for us, we're definitely not safe, I don't think. We're going to have to go again to make sure we get into the top 10 shootout. Vettel in the Aston looks like once again maybe set for a dropout in Q2. Let's see though. And this is quite a crucial qualifying, remember. Abu Dhabi is a very difficult place to overtake. Even on the game, you know, you sometimes don't see as much action as you would kind of see at other circuits, despite the slipstream being a bit more overpowered in the game. So let's see into the last corner. Like I said, gaining about a 10th or 2 there. It's a 2.5 tenths gain just about across the line, but it's not enough. Oh, it's not enough. We're knocked out. We're knocked out in Q2, P11, by the tiniest of margins to George Russell. Myself and Russell have usually been very, very close, actually, at knocking each other out as of late in Q2 into Q3, but we have been knocked out this time. Perez makes it through, but he's only down in P8, showing the kind of lack of pace of our car and the evolution that's come in this back end of this season with the other teams around us having the higher R&D, of course, the higher cash flow for the career mode settings, and eventually, it took them a while, but they're now actually using it to good effect, and we've plateaued very much so, almost like kind of our Brawn GP levels, and we're having to just kind of scrape the barrel to make sure we can do this thing. Obviously, it was enough for us last episode to seal the constructors. You would say I may be on the back foot here being knocked out, but really well and truly, Vettel is the one on the back foot. He's the leader, and he's at the back of the pack versus myself and Perez. Let's go to the grid then. Let's see what Perez can do in the top 10 shootout and see how the grid lines up for this final crucial race.
Welcome to the Yas Marina circuit for the finale of another thrilling Formula One season. It's been a breathtaking year, and we end it at a track that's been the scene of many glories and heartbreaks over its history. It's time to end the season in style. It's time for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The drivers will be racing here at the Yas Marina circuit through 21 corners and a lap distance of just over 3.4 miles. There are a few opportunities to pass, with long straights and DRS zones in 2 places, turns 8 and turn 11. Plenty of close racing then, plenty of speed, and I hope plenty of drama to be found in the laps ahead.
And instead of Anthony Davidson waffling on, you've got me, because for some reason the game didn't load in any commentary here, so it gives me time to talk a little bit. We've got, looks like a McLaren of Lando Norris, I think that is, on pole position, and a Ferrari alongside him, previewing maybe what we're going to get next season at the beginning. But there is the Drivers' Championship. Sebastian Vettel leads the way in his final ever season and final race, but can Sergio Perez or myself do anything to overthrow him? It's going to be such a tense race with so many fine margins in play.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Bottas, Lewis Hamilton and Perez, Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Russell, the owner driver, Stroll, Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon and Tsunoda, Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel and Pierre Gasly, Joe Giovinazzi, they've taken a grid penalty, Latifi and Callum Islands. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
So absolutely massive news then, just before we get to this Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel, he has to take a further engine penalty. He took one, I think, a couple episodes ago, but this is a final set of engine penalties he has to take. So he is down to P17. I start in P10 because I got elevated by someone else actually ahead of us with an engine penalty, and Sergio Perez managed to get up into P6. So this is the setup now for this final race. Vettel P17, looks like he's starting on the medium tyres along with his teammate Lance Stroll. So both Astons trying something very different because no one else on the grid is starting on medium. So already this is going to be interesting to see if the Astons can do something clever, because how many times have we seen them go long at the start of a Grand Prix on the softest compounder tyre, let alone the medium compounder tyre? And then you've got ourselves P10, Perez P6. Tyre wear is always very, very bad on the soft compound. So the first stint's going to be crucial of trying to just get as many overtakes and, you know, as far ahead as we can of Vettel and the Astons, and then trying to manage the tyres, maybe come in early for an undercut. We know it's very, very powerful around here, but also at the same time, traffic is a nuisance around here. If you get caught up behind slower cars, it is it's an absolute killer, as Fernando Alonso knows back in 2010. It's a two-stop, though, onto two sets of medium tyres. Whether the Astons do basically a swap-round version of that, or they're trying a very unique one-stop, maybe on mediums to hards, who knows? But I think that's been the beauty of this entire season. There's been so many unknown variables and so many surprises and twists and turns every single race, and that's what's made it, you know, such a fun season to play through, and hope you guys agree. And here we go then. We've got one final race then in Season 2 to see who we can crown the Drivers' World Champion. Will it be Sebastian Vettel in his final ever race in Formula 1? Sergio Perez across the garage from us, who's been doing such an amazing job on our team, or are we going to steal it at the death? Here we go to 5 red lights. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is underway, and we're off, and it's a cracking start for us versus Fernando Alonso. We get in the middle of him and George Russell into turn 1, a bit of a dive to try and get through, and threading our car through the inside. We're up into P8, so it's a great first turn for us. Even better one for Sergio Perez, where things made up at least one position up into P5 ahead of Lewis Hamilton, as Alonso tries to look around the outside of us. We're having none of it though, and making sure we park our car at the correct point. Lando Norris still leads the way. Verstappen real slow the hairpin there, but can actually catch him napping a little bit midway through. The Red Bull got caught up in the curb a little bit there, and so it's Honda v Honda power, drag race in a straight line versus Max Verstappen, getting oh so close on the left, using plenty of ERS trying to boost down that straight. Verstappen with the inside defensive line, but takes way too much curb, and then on the exit into the second bar of that chicane, you can see how much time he lost, and to the point where his teammate Fernando Alonso is now looking on the back of him, and we have very much pushed away from him and already gaining a bit of a gap as Ricciardo is weaving about, trying to make a double overtake almost in the Red Bull cars. And then you've got the Aston Martin, the lead Aston of Lance Stroll, that is, in P11, looking to make a move on George Russell, and Russell is fighting back the Alpine still side by side with the Aston, but Lance Stroll eventually gets that. But then our main man that we're focusing on, the championship leader, Sebastian Vettel, he's actually lost a position. He's down to P18 in his Aston. This is horrendous for him. Remember though, he is on the medium tyre, but he needs to be doing what Stroll's doing. Stroll is actually awake in this race. I don't know what's happening to Sebastian Vettel at the moment. He's sleeping a little bit because he's still got some pace in that car, and he needs to be trying to make some moves at the start, as many as he can on the mediums, as Fernando Alonso is in for an early stop. I suspect some damage maybe on lap 1, so he moves down the order. Meanwhile, later on lap number 2, looks like Vettel may have heard me in the commentary box, because he makes a dive bomb on not only 1 but 2 Williams cars. Tried to get Mazepin, tries to get Guan Yu Zhou in one corner in one foul swoop, doesn't quite pull it off, but he looks like he's now finally maybe gotten to grips with the medium tyre, I don't know, gotten into a rhythm, whatever the case. He's woken up a little bit, and he's up to P14 now, making the progress he needs to be doing to get into the points base. And he's on the medium tyre, you know, his teammate is as well, and P10, so realistically he should be able to bridge that gap, hopefully you would think, for his sake, up to Stroll. And you know, Aston are actually in a good position being on the mediums, could open themselves up to some clever strategy. Meanwhile, for me on the soft compound, it is struggle town right now on P7. Look at the rear end snapping, but it's more because I've got no front end. The front tyres are absolutely cooking. I think this is the first time ever on this game that I have had issues with internal car crash temperature. You guys have not really seen me talk about the internal car crash temperature at all on this game so far. It was very much a thing on F1 2020, but I assumed that it just wasn't a thing anymore on F1 2021 because I've never seen them light up like this. But now here with a Season 2 spec car at the end, you know, obviously a fair few upgrades, a lot more downforce. Now the force is going into these tyres. They're really not liking them, and Ricciardo is now pushing past this in the McLaren Mercedes P7 there. Of course, his teammates are leading the way, so I'm not too shocked that he's able to come through and overtake me, but equally I think we should be able to come back at him actually here with the second DRS zone. But already now I'm thinking of maybe a slightly earlier pit stop, you know, to counteract these front tyres going absolutely off the cliff in terms of temperature. Ricciardo very aggressive over the curb. We give him some room, but equally trying to maintain the position, and we just about pull that move off to hold up P7, and that's very much the word, holding up P7, as Ricciardo and Verstappen are stuck behind me right now as we now move on to the end of lap number 4, and Vettel is making more moves. He's already got Mick Schumacher into P13, and now he's looking to get Yuki Tsunoda, and will he pull off this move through the left-hander? Oh, what a move there from Vettel. That takes a lot of commitment on the outside of that left-hander. You have to take also a lot of faith in the driver on the inside there. So Vettel having a lot of faith in Yuki Tsunoda, but equally also faith in his car to have the downforce to make that move. Obviously, the medium compound maybe is most definitely, actually, I would say probably the better race tyre now at this stage of the Grand Prix. As now we watch on further up the road, Hamilton v Perez. This is for P5. Perez was able to overtake Hamilton on this start, but now Hamilton coming back at him. But Perez now, like I did with Ricciardo, is able to use that second DRS zone to come through, but Hamilton is not giving up, and he makes an absolute dive and a half to continue this fight. They're still going at it side by side through that entire Mickey Mouse kind of section at Yas Marina, and they'll just keep on going through the next double right-hander. Look at that. That is absolutely sublime stuff to watch, and Hamilton and Perez are still going at it underneath the hotel. But what this is doing is they're holding each other up so much, as that is perhaps the useless camera shot I've ever seen in the F1 game. Thank you for that. But yeah, they've held each other up so much as Perez dive bombs Hamilton into the last corner. What is going on? Perez and Hamilton, this is a battle for the ages, and they've held each other up so much, though, I was saying, that Ricciardo now has arrived on the scene, and look how far we are. We're about only a second or two down the road, along with Stroll v Verstappen, and just like Vettel, Stroll is able to make an amazing overtake on the outside of that left-hander. The Aston Martin cars are loving the medium tyre, it would seem, and Stroll tries to finish off the move, but Verstappen is actually coming back at him and getting the elbows out, and he's actually managed to maintain the position for now at the hairpin apex. But I think in a straight line, the Aston Martin may just have it with DRS. But what an amazing sequence of overtakes and battling we've seen from AI on AI. Hamilton has managed to actually finally book in that overtake and get up into P5, and eventually on lap number 6, Ricciardo is going to come knocking at Perez's door as Perez loses some pace now on those soft tyres. And, you know, I think he's joining me maybe potentially with the front end overheating. Maybe that's a specific car issue with our car compared to the McLaren and Mercedes, because Ricciardo looks pretty handy there. And on lap 6, on that same lap, at my time to come in, I've decided I want to come in one lap earlier than my engineer wants me to, because I reckon, yeah, I can gain some time. We could even jump Perez with the undercut here. So we made that decision, and it could end up being a very important strategic decision later on this race. We have track position versus Perez. So now we're in now for that first stop onto medium tyres, and it's going to be a mighty quick stop. 1.9 there from our team, almost too quick that I didn't even realise we had to go again in terms of the reaction time I had of pulling the gear to get out of the pit box. But we're now out, and we're going to be in some pretty decent clean air just ahead of the Alfa Romeo of Latifi as we swap through left to right and get ahead of him just before the chicane, and then we'll go ahead about overtaking Schumacher at the end of the main straight as we go through the chicane. That second DRS zone is going to be our friend today as we open up the rear flap and deploy ERS, and now we are in a good pocket of clean air. Nothing too crazy. I think we probably will catch Giovinazzi eventually, but it's enough clean air to make this work, as here we are through onto lap number 8, and as we look on the left left-hand side of the mini-map, and Perez is behind us. Bit of a wobble, high-speed wobble that was it in 7th gear as our front right tyre touched the curb, but we have jumped Sergio Perez with the undercut pit stop. 2 laps of an undercut we did on Checo, and it's worked out for us. We're going to try and get the DRS off Giovinazzi and pull through, but Ricciardo's maintained his track position as well as Hamilton up the road, you can see on the mini-map, but that's fine by me. We're focused on Perez and focused on Vettel today. Of course, we still need to make some progress in this race, but right now just focus on trying to get our head down and get these overtakes done on these slower cars, not losing too much time with Giovinazzi and then Tsunoda also to come, because Ricciardo is going to dispatch of him pretty quickly. We look behind us and Perez is just following us through, so it's almost like overtaking these cars is almost like chucking like a, you know, like a red shell in Mario Kart, like a hurdle, a moving hurdle for Perez to try and overtake, and we're just trying to get through all these hurdles as quickly as we can, and Tsunoda is being a right pain in the arse of a hurdle as he slows us up so much in that left-hander. Unlike Vettel or Stroll, I just did not have the confidence to go around the outside of him on that left-hander. I don't actually know how they did that, because it's actually such a difficult move to make, because you need so much momentum off the last corner, and then also just so much confidence in your car to kind of make it stick the whole time through that corner and not get unsettled by the curb. But anyways, eventually we did get the move, and Perez will as well at the end of that main straight up into P10. So at the moment we're P9 and P10. Vettel, I can see, is up in P3, yet to pit, remember, on the mediums, but now we're focusing on Ricciardo v Hamilton. Ricciardo chased after Hamilton after that first stint. He's gone for the move, but Hamilton committing to fighting everyone in this section, it would seem. Hamilton's loving going side by side in that section, and there was a little bit of contact, I can't lie there. I'm wondering maybe did someone come off with some damage, because that was quite a heavy clout from Ricciardo onto Hamilton. But yeah, like I was saying, Stroll and Vettel yet to pit in this Grand Prix, started on mediums. Stroll's now in P1, Vettel P3, Norris, who has made his first pit stop already, is there in P2, just showing you the pace difference that now McLaren and Ferrari have at the sharp end there, that Norris is already on the back of Lance Stroll. But this is what I'm talking about, you know, Aston now in a very good position, P3 for Vettel. You know, if they are, you know, what if they are pulling off a one stop, as Ricciardo is in for damage. I knew it, I just thought that was too much contact with Ricciardo and Hamilton, so Ricciardo has come foul of the simulation damage that of course even we can come foul of. Luckily so far so good, but there's still plenty of time in this race to go, and danger is everywhere when it comes to simulation damage. We've known that far too well so far this season and on this game so far. But Perez is coming towards us, he's got DRS, we've got no one ahead of us to help us out with a DRS, so we're a sitting duck basically as Perez pulls through, but we're actually quite close with ERS usage, so we dive back down the inside. Perez with the big lock-up and mistake, so he opens us up to maybe coming back at him a little bit. We tried to go for the clever cutback from left to right, didn't really work out because I got too much curb on the exit, but instead now with this second DRS zone we're able to come back at Perez and get back through into P8. At this stage it's hard to know how hard we should or shouldn't fight Perez for the sake of our race, you know, overall, because it's hard to tell really where we're going to end up being once those other people make their first pit stops. But for now we're just going to have to go for it, as Perez is really coming at us with everything he's got, and we're trying to soak up the pressure, and Verstappen is actually closing up to both of us whilst we fight and squabble over these positions, as now Perez is through and he's actually got the move on the second DRS zone, and so I've got nothing to answer for it. We have to be patient and come back at him later. And you've got to remember, at the same time, fighting this much against someone's also going to wreck your tyres a bit, and you can see that there with that wash of understeer as we got overtaken by him, and it takes us a whole 3 laps to finally come back at Perez now. Lap 15 this is, so even 4 laps even, and we're now finally on the back of Checo once again. For the last couple of laps I've been saving my tyres, just hanging back a little bit, trying to bring down the temperatures, and so now we're back in a good working range to come and attack him. But it's also meant that Verstappen, Stroll and Vettel have joined the party, that biding our time, bringing those tyre temperatures down, have just invited this pressure. And Vettel now, well, he can see both of us up the road, so now it feels like the intensity's kicking up a little bit. We're now over halfway through this Grand Prix gone, and we're going for the move on Sergio Perez. He goes defensive to the inside, but we're going to take the outside line. Lock up on the front left though, we're a bit too deep, but can we get to the inside? Yes we can, and we just wash Perez out a little bit wide, and we're up into P6. And look at Stroll coming, Vettel in the background there, what can he do? But Stroll is the Aston Martin that's being being the nuisance right now. He's going for the move on Verstappen, and Perez is just about hanging on ahead of them, and Stroll makes a lovely little move, and bit of contact made with him and Verstappen, and Stroll round the outside he goes, and he's made it. And Verstappen now, at the end of the lap, he's in now for damage. The simulation damage for these AI is a nightmare, it seems. Ricciardo was in earlier, Verstappen now is in, but you know what, inadvertently that's helped out Vettel now. Stroll battling Verstappen to the point where they made contact has now helped out Vettel, because Vettel got a free overtake then on Verstappen, and he is now in P9 ahead of Ricciardo. Obviously Ricciardo had made that earlier pit stop after that contact with Hamilton, so actually who knows, Ricciardo, you know, if his pace is good enough, he actually still may end up fighting us or be ahead of us, depending on, you know, our pace on this middle stint and then the stint at the end of the race. But at the moment, focusing on this fight with Perez, as Perez comes back at us, it seems like deja vu all over again for about the 4th or 5th time now. Me and Checo are swapping positions on this main straight, and again, we go through the outside, try and cut in tight, trying to get that tighter line on the exit to give us that oomph right there with ERS now, DRS open as well, and we come through side by side with Perez, and we're back up into P6, just about. Can we finish off the job in the brake zone? Yes, we can. Get to the apex, swoop in left, and we're able to breathe again a little bit then until the next lap. But my God, Perez's pressure, it's been unreal this entire race. He just keeps at it lap after lap, and he may just go for it here. Oh my word, what is Perez doing with the kamikaze dive on the inside? I have never seen that before. The AI, Perez, the absolute commitment, the double right-hander to keep it through. I did not think I was going to be going side by side with him through there, but now he's kept at it. We're now side by side for the remainder of this lap. Perez wants this. He wants the P6. He wants the championship. He can taste it. We're getting through to the last third of this Grand Prix, and he wants the track position. The pit window's now open, and we just about once again hold on for dear life to P6. But for how much longer can we soak up this pressure? Perez is clearly wanting to get a move on, and someone else wanting to get a move on is that man there, the 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, now finally making a move on his teammate. Will his teammate release him to now go forth and attack us? Who knows? Looks like Stroll's going to keep up the pressure himself, but Perez, he comes back at us now for the 7th or 8th time in this race, and as that goes on, we look behind us briefly, and you can see Vettel is overtaking Stroll, so we've got to be wary of that. Vettel is arriving on the scene. We go for the re-overtaking move. We get a brilliant exit off that right-hander. That really helps us out, push away. But Vettel, look at that. He's already overtaken Stroll. And in a flash of a pan, Vettel is alongside. Vettel's ahead of Perez. Vettel's now gone for a move on us. What's going on here? Vettel with the lightning pace in the DRS zone, and we only just about hold it. The tyres are a little bit dead at this point as well, so we're going to come in. Lap 17, that's my cue. That's my cue to come in. Vettel overtaking Perez, that's my cue to come in, because I thought, okay, we're going to lose too much time fighting what seems to be like a very feisty and quick Vettel now in that part. Obviously, remember, his tyre's a lot younger than mine and Perez's, so maybe that's why he was so quick off that corner and was able to make a move not only on Perez, but then he made a kamikaze dive on me to go around the outside. So that was my cue to come in now for the final pit stop onto a final set of medium tyres. Where are we going to filter out? We're ahead of Ricciardo, but behind Verstappen. So ironically, Verstappen having that damage has actually helped him out getting an undercut on me. Obviously not the same for Ricciardo, but that's because he pit a lot earlier with that damage he had with Hamilton, of course, but he is mighty quick. He set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so he may find him as a bit of an annoying neighbour soon enough. But on the next lap, lap 19, let's see what this sit rep is. Vettel, P6, with track position. He's pulling away from Perez. I feel like Perez should have pit probably on this lap for some reason, because his tyres are going off and Stroll overtakes him. He needs to come on in this lap, Perez does. He has to for the sake of his race. I think both Astons are going longer to then pit onto the soft compounder tyre in this race, so there's no need for Perez to try and long that stint out. So he needs to come in, because I feel like even though as we get overtaken by Ricciardo, you know, Ricciardo's the fastest man on track though, I still think at this point in time I'm going to undercut and re-overtake Vettel in this entire race because of the pace difference on a fresh set of tyres. And right now, like earlier in the Grand Prix, can we actually come back at Ricciardo with the second DRS zone as yellow flags in Sector 2. And Vettel! Oh no! What happened to Sebastian Vettel? He's gone slow. He just hit the wall. And his car does not look like it's handling correctly. I wonder, is it mechanical failure? Is it the engine? It is the engine as smoke comes pouring out the back of the Aston Martin. And it's all over. It's ended an absolute tragedy for the four-time world champion. Is now, meanwhile, we're having an absolute ding-dong battle with Daniel Ricciardo. Rick Bobby sent it down the inside. Bit of contact made there with my front left tyre. Ricciardo really going for it. He's determined to stay ahead of us as we try to re-overtake him. But the bigger story here is we just passed there under the hotel Sebastian Vettel in his final ever race in Formula 1 on this game of ours is out of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix with an engine failure. He is out of the race. I cannot actually believe this. In his final race, going for his 5th World Championship to bow out in Formula 1, and he gets hit with an engine failure out of his hands, out of anyone's hands. It's just a random thing that's decided by the game, and he's out of this Grand Prix. But it may not be over, you know, because technically Vettel could still win this championship from a DNF because Stroll just made his pit stop. And look at the pecking order right now. We're in P8, Perez is P9, Stroll P10. As it stands right now, Vettel would still be crowned the world champion. On the bottom left, 0 points for him, but only 2 points for Perez takes him to 223, and 4 points for me, 222. So as it stands right now, strangely enough, Sebastian Vettel is still on to win his 5th World Championship. The goal is simple now. 7 laps to go. Myself and Perez, we need to chase after Ricciardo, who's about 1.1 seconds up the road. And also at the same time, the other caveat is Lance Stroll, he's on a set of soft tyres, the only man on softs. He's in a pretty rapid-looking Aston Martin, you would say, from the race pace they've shown this race so far. So it's a case of, can me and Perez chase after Ricciardo before Stroll catches us? It's a cat and mouse game on the biggest world stage of motorsport. And on lap 22, we're going for it. We pushed the mark. Green first sector. We're getting our head down. We're within 1 second of Ricciardo. But the thing is, the McLaren is so bloody quick in a straight line. So even with DRS and using ERS all the way down both straights, that's as close as I'm getting to Ricciardo. The same again on lap 24, just not getting close enough with DRS, and we're having to, you know, use ERS quite strategically to make sure we're using it the most important part where we're losing time to the McLaren. We are both closing up on Verstappen though, so I wonder by the end of this race, are we going to catch Verstappen, and could that help us potentially overtake one of them to get some points for our championship fight? Meanwhile, for Perez, he's not got the pace with me. He's not keeping up with me, and Stroll is catching him. But at the moment, it doesn't matter. With 3 laps to go now, Vettel is still on to win the championship. I'm 1.1 behind Ricciardo. I only just got DRS on this straight. I don't know if we can do this. This is slipping out of our hands. But I need Ricciardo to go for a move right now. He's closed up to Verstappen. I need him, absolutely need him to go for a move on Verstappen. And they need to hold each other up for any chance of me to get one more position in this race maybe. Here he goes. He's answered my prayers maybe. Ricciardo with a dive bomb down the inside. Ricciardo and Verstappen side by side. Bit of contact made. Verstappen keeps his foot in. Ricciardo does as well. And we've closed up to the both of them. Can we make a move? We're trying to wait and see. Where's the room? Left and right. There's no room to work with. They're so committed to fighting each other. Verstappen, though, a bit slow on the inside. Can we go around the outside potentially? Yes, we can. We can. And we're around the outside. But it's still not enough. This position would still not be enough. P7. Vettel would still win. We need to overtake Ricciardo. And Ricciardo's in! Oh, no. What? Ricciardo's in! Ricciardo's in for a pit stop! It's a simulation damage, it must be. I think Ricciardo and Verstappen, they're both in. They made contact in that fight with each other, and they got damage on the front wing. They're both changing their front wings. But hang on, look on the bottom left. This isn't even good news for me. This isn't enough for me to win the championship, but it is for Sergio Perez. Perez has been elevated to P7 from P9, and so now has enough points to win the championship. But by 1 point to me. It was looking so likely that Sebastian Vettel was still somehow going to win this championship, but Perez could be now on for the win from P7. But the story may not be over yet because it's lap 26. And remember, Stroll's on the set of soft tyres. He's going to be so much quicker. And here he comes with DRS. Perez is going to defend for his life because if he loses this position, he could lose the championship. Stroll on the inside. Oh, it's so close. But Perez does enough. Perez maintains the P7. But on the second bite, the cherry of DRS, Stroll round the outside. And Stroll gets the move. And Perez is down to P8. And that means we could just have enough points to win the championship. We're now here on the last lap of the Grand Prix. We're P6. Vettel is out the race. Perez, he needs to make an overtake for the championship. He needs to get P7, but he's not close enough to Lance Stroll. And Stroll surely got the acceleration off this corner with this soft compounded tyre. He does. Look at the acceleration there. He pulls away. And as we cut back to our POV, Lando Norris has won the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But I can't believe it. I can't believe what we've just done. What the hell have we just done? We've come across the line to win the Drivers' World Championship at the death of it by 1 point to Vettel and Perez. What the hell did we just do?
And so the celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It may have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level, at the very top, is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure, and no doubt they'll be celebrating tonight.
I actually just can't comprehend what has just happened. Lando Norris wins, Ferrari in second, Mercedes third. Maybe, as I've said a few times now, a sign of things to come for Season 3 next time out. But what the hell have we just done? I can't believe in that race. I can't believe, well, for one, Vettel went out. How unlucky do you have to be as an AI? Or whatever? I can't believe he went out in the finale. It would have been even crazier in a way if he was there fighting us for position and points. But the fact he went out and was still able to maybe mathematically win the championship because where me and Perez were, and then for Ricciardo and Verstappen to collide with each other in that fight, take themselves out of the race, for that to still open up to Perez to win it, and then for Perez to be denied by Stroll. Oh my word, there was so many things there out of my control, like Stroll, Ricciardo, Verstappen, but they all just clicked and came my way, and we've somehow ended up finessing this completely, because I'm not going to lie, look, Perez has been the better man in this car this season. I'm not even going to deny that, no cap, but, you know, crazy things sometimes happen in Formula 1, especially in the F1 game, and they have today. My God. We've done it. We've won the Drivers' World Championship. I don't know how the hell we've done that. Guys, if you did enjoy that race, nay, the whole of Season 2, then be sure to smash like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And before you get going, like I said, I mentioned Season 3 a few times. And if you're familiar with the channel, I always like to give you guys a few little votes and kind of decisions to make going into that new season ahead of the pre-season episode and video. So stick around here for a little bit if you want to see those choices. And the first of those Season 3 votes, guys, are going to be about a change of power unit potentially. Now, going to next season, you guys have seen the R&D chart over the winter. We're going to have to make some massive upgrades to try and defend our championships, because we are very much not the quickest car. We're actually slower than Alpine at the moment, actually, going to Season 3. We're like midway through the grid now. So it's a very weird situation to be in, you know, going from being in a championship fight like this to at the start of next season, we actually might be, you know, a midfield team again. So we need to think about our options about power unit, because Honda have dropped off a little bit in this second season of ours. So do we potentially go and move to Renault, Ferrari, or Mercedes? Let me know. You are going to be my board of directors, obviously, in this My Team Career Mode. So take a vote and let's see what you guys, the board, want to do in terms of the power unit. And then finally, the second major thing you guys need to vote on is our new title sponsor or main sponsor on the car that will take up most of the side pod, for example, and feature heavily on the car round and may even influence part of the livery for Season 3. So vote on that as well and decide what you guys fancy there. But that is it then for those votes for Season 3, and that is going to be the end of this video. If you guys once again did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. Thank you guys so much for the support on the entirety of Season 2. The response on every episode has been absolutely mental, and I've had so much fun recording this second season. I can't wait to see what Season 3 maybe has in store for us. But till then, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.